Okay, I'm going to show you the crafting activity, which is the second session. The first session involves two activities: object handling and investigating the objects in the saddlebag that's been found on the camel, that's full of all sorts of things, and you've got to figure out who it belonged to and what that's all about. And then there is the questions around the routes that all of those items took. That's the other activity. Then the children have a break, and then when they come back from the break, you're going to be showing them how to make incense burners, and that's the crafting activity. I've got some incense burners, or you should have an incense burner that was made before that you can show them so that they know what they're trying to do. And whilst they're having their break, you want to take the saddlebag and the saddle off the table where it's been, and you need to set up the class for the crafting activity. Now the children will be in groups of 5 or 6, possibly 7, in islands of desks, 5 or 6 islands. So they're in their groups, and each child, where each child sits, they need to have a crafting board like this. They need to have 2 pencils, they need to have a rolling pin, they need to have 3 shape cutters, cookie cutter shapes. They need to have a ball of clay. So these portions of clay will be measured out, and they'll be in your box of crafting materials that you bring to the school, and there should be enough for every child to have one, plus a few spares. So I'd suggest about 40 portions. They're 125 grams each, so they'll need measuring out before you set off for the school and put in the Ziploc bags. Then the tables are all going to be covered with a protector. We've got several sheets of protection that's in the crafting box. Then you've got some crafting tools. So each island of 5 or 6 children will have some tools and a few cocktail sticks. Here's a couple of cocktail sticks. Here's a box of them. So get some cocktail sticks, and then 2 or 3 pots of water on each island of tables, and then some paintbrushes. So each child's got a paintbrush. You also want some paper towel in case there's any spillages. And then once everything's set up, don't forget you're going to be doing it too to demonstrate how it's done. So you'll need to set up your table with all of those things too. And then 10 minutes before the children are due to come back, or maybe just as they're coming back into the room, you might want to take an incense cone and start it burning. Now, the story is that whilst they were off on their break, the school was contacted by the trader, the camel rider who was carrying the saddlebag, to say thanks for finding my lost camel and for looking after it. By way of a thank you, I'm giving every child some incense, and these are the frankincense cones. So they get to make an incense burner to burn their cones. There we go. Right. So the classroom will smell of frankincense when they get back in from their break. So there we go. So how do you make the incense burners then? Well, what you do is you get your clay and take it out of its bag and just sort of squash it and roll it between your fingers. Get it nice and smooth so there aren't any cracks on the surface and it all looks nice. Plonk it down between your pencils and then roll it out. Now you can do it you can move it around a little bit in between rolls until you've got until your rolling pin is resting on the pencils and it won't go any lower. At that point the clay is the right thickness. Okay, so get one of your cookie cutters. Now the cookie cutters come in 2 parts. You've got the cutting bit and you've got the pusher, and the reason for that is that when you push the cutter into the clay, and that creates a shape, but it gets a bit stuck and it's quite difficult get out without having a little pusher. I mean, you can get it out, but you might get fingerprints and squash it and stuff. So get your pushing shape and push it out like that. And then there's your first shape. Now you need the second shape. There's the second shape. Let's push that one out. Gently take it off the pusher. And then the third shape. Push it into the clay. And like this to get it out. Right. Gently does it. Now, you have one of each shape. You actually need two of each shape to make your burners. So get the remainder of the clay, roll it back into a ball, roll it between your fingers, right, between the palms of your hand like that, and then roll it out again. Just put them to one side so you don't knock them. Now, you're obviously not going to get all 6 shapes, 2 of each, out of one roll out of the clay, so you might not get it out of the second roll out either. You might have to do a third gathering up and, or rather a second gathering up and roll it out a third time. Where's the shape pusher there? There's the shape pusher. Right, so we've got two of the large shape so far, and then the middle sized shape. No, that's too big, not going to fit. Right, so let's get the small square shape and push that. I'm just going to move that out of the way. Okay. So we've got 2 of the large shape, 2 of the small shape, and then you've got a bit of clay left over to make the final piece. Oops, hang on a minute. Right. Now, if for some reason the kids need a bit more clay, you might have some on hand. Oh, there's my pusher, there it is. Pusher. But you should be fine to get all 6 pieces out of 125 grams of clay and have a little bit left over. And then the next stage is assembling the burners. So to do that, let's have the 6 pieces on the board. You start off taking a smaller one of the smaller pieces and get a tool. Now you can use a modelling tool, or you can use a cocktail stick, and you basically need to just kind of put some crosshatch just to rough up the edge and go all the way around. You need to handle the clay fairly gently, but you don't want to squash it. But yeah, you just scratch the edges. You probably can't see. Get your paintbrush and just get a little bit of water on it, and you just want to dampen one of the edges. Just just make it slightly damp, and then push it onto the middle-sized piece so that it lines up with the top of the notch that's out of the bottom of that piece, and then you get your second of the smallest shapes, and again just rough up the edge on all four edges, and get your paintbrush, moisten the edge, and push that into the thing as well. But this time you want to have it just a little bit so that there's a bit of a recess in the top of the burner. So you want to come down roughly the thickness of the slab and squash your second of the smaller shapes onto that piece, and then you get the second one of the middle-sized piece, and you moisten the top edges of this bit like that to help it stick, and then put that on top so that it's opposite the other piece. Just gently squash it down, not too hard because you don't want to squash the clay. There's photographs for close-up images in the Rawi guide that you'll be using to help you remember all of this. Now I'm just roughing up the other two side edges, like this. And then take your brush again, and you want to moisten that. The water helps it stick together, you see. Okay, and then you take the whole thing and plonk it down on top of one of the larger pieces. Gently push it, not too hard. And then finally, either with the modelling tool or the cocktail stick again, just rough up those edges that are still smooth, that haven't had a bit of cross hatching on. Like that. And moisten all of these edges. Okay. And then finally, take the whole thing, well actually you could take the last piece and plonk it on top. Like that. Try and square it all off. Yeah, gently push it into place so that it's nice and stuck. And then gently pick the whole thing up, place it the right way up. There you go, there's your piece. Now it's going to be a little bit soft still and squashy. You get your modelling tool and you place the incense burner down, and you just gently smooth over the top. Wherever there's a join, there'll be a little bit of a crack, and you smooth out the clay surface just gently to smooth that join and create that nice smooth top surface, side surface, whatever. And then you go on to this side. Doesn't need doing. This is the next side that's got some joins in it that again needs smoothing out. Gently just go over the crack to smooth it out. then turn it upside down, and you can do the underside. You might find a little bit of water helps. You might find it doesn't really need it. I'm just going to finish off the legs and the top edges like that. So then you've got the finished burner, and the last stage is for the children to decorate them. Now they can they can decorate them in any way they like, really. They can write their name on it, they can draw pictures of camels, or they could do some geometric designs, or they could make them look like inscriptions that the Nabateans may have used. So, or they could do a bit of all of those things. So you get your cocktail stick and scratch your design into the surface. Now they can take a bit of time to do this a bit more carefully than I'm doing, but you get the idea. So eventually you'll have patterns on the sides and or pictures or writing. And finally, once they've finished their designs, they should take their finished incense burner and put it in the drying area. The Rawi guide explains that you need to find a space in the classroom or in the school or in another room where they can place them to dry. So it might be on a shelf or on a table in an area preferably that's not in direct sunlight, so that when they dry they don't dry too quickly and crack. It'll take 2 or 3 days for them to dry, so tell the children that their teacher will give them their dried, finished incense burner once they've dried out. And yeah, that's it. So they take them to the drying area, gently place them on the shelf or the table or wherever it is, and that's it. And then thank them for taking part, and that's the end of the session. Don't forget that the Rawi guide explains all of the steps, and there's photographs to show any close-up detail that you won't be able to see in this video.